This is TWiT.
Look at, if I talk to like Qualcomm, they're going to tell me about AI for like antenna modulation for like delivering 5G to the phone, right? That's important, right?
But that's one of the coolest things about AI is it is like computing in general is a very wide range of applications.
Infrastructure.
Or, well, it can be, but it can also be, I use an AI expert system with coding, and that's really amazing. I mean, there are some definite uses for AI right now out of the box, whereas I don't see those for...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm arguing that AI is infrastructure, which is why I think it'll be necessary going forward.
Yeah, it's the same as the internet in the sense that internet is infrastructure for our lives. Right. AI is infrastructure, whether you see it or you don't, right? Like, you know, there's AI algorithms handling a bunch of stuff on our Zoom meetings, and then when you look up on TikTok, and then when you go and drive your car. And AI is just like a broad, like, you know, it is such a broad term that applies to a lot of things, and people can disagree. And we're like talking beyond generative AI, which is its own little subcategory. But yes, like Stacey's absolutely right. It's infrastructure, absolutely.
All sorts of things.
It's been around, and it's been around for longer than you might realize.
Right.
I came out with a report on AI investor trends. It's in benparr.com. I'll have to plug it.
110 pages. Yes.
And one of the things I found when I was doing it was I did a report in college on AI in 2005, 2006.
Wow.
And I found I was like, you know, when where the term AI was really first coined? It was a conference at Dartmouth in the 1950s. I was like, oh, yeah, this has been around for a long time.
Yeah, John McCarthy. We were, people of my age have been through more than one AI winter as well. You know, we've watched AI be overhyped, you know, and die a miserable death more than once. I think 2 or 3 AI winners we've gone through. So, but I don't think this is the same. I honestly don't. I am completely turned around on AI. I've become much more bullish on it since you last joined us, Stacey. Because I've been able to use it in so many interesting and powerful ways. And I see with one of your slides in the deck, you show at slide 110, you show an image, AI-generated image. And absolutely, I mean, for image generation alone, AI has been fascinating. I've become, and I don't know if you're on this same train as I am, Ben, but I have become so bullish on AI that I'm, and much to my... the dismay of many of my co-creators, I'm kind of saying just let AI have everything. Don't limit AI to uncopyrighted or free material. And actually, we're starting to see that a lot of news organizations are blocking AI scrapers. I think that training is really important. And I think I think AI should have access to everything. It's not stealing your information. It's learning something. And I think it's going to be so valuable. I don't want to see any limitations on it.
I could see the debate screaming in the comments.
You could see,
coming.
You know how much people hate that one. Especially creators hate that when I say that. You know.
Well, with valid justification based on some, you know, when you see an AI image generator spit out a thing that still has the watermark.
But it's not. It's a little bit like the watermark, but it isn't. It's not Getty's watermark. You can tell that it ingested some Getty images, which by the way, Getty has put online.
Right.
I just think that here's why I say this. Look, I understand if you're a copyright holder, you're terrified, blah blah blah. But there is so much value societally to be gained from an AI that's smart, and there's so much to be lost from an AI that's hobbled. You know, one of the stories this week is that AI has not been allowed to scrape things like the Washington Post and the New York Times, but right-wing news media has been welcoming AI scraping. And so what you're going to get is AIs that are trained on right-wing media, but not left-wing media, and I don't think that's good for anybody. And so I think it's a mistake to say what AI can read and not read. It's not. The New York Times lawsuit saying, oh, you're going to read the New York Times in an AI, in a chat GPT instead of on our page is obvious nonsense. No one's going to do that. They're just trying to extract some money out of them.
As a creator, I don't think that's wrong. So first up, as someone who's created content, if you have created your content with the idea that it is for people and reading for people, right? And for a certain use case, like as a journalist, it's a service to my readers or whatever. I have an audience in mind. I think that's an important thing to like, you can't go back and change that contract, which is kind of what AI is. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to now use this thing that you built that's, still technically owned by you or your publication usually. And we're going to use it for this instead. I think your arguments about like, oh, right-wing media is, going to allow it to be trained as opposed to left-wing media. I think there's a place for making that argument and then having people produce content for AI that is quality content because of the benefits to society or whatever the hell we want to argue. But I don't believe that saying I should give my content to a multi-billion-dollar company just for better training of something they're going to make money on is really
what if it weren't for them to make money? What if it were open source? I do agree.
Okay,
I don't want to see Google or Microsoft dominate, or OpenAI for that matter, dominate AI. I think it should be open source. But so if you would be okay if it's somebody who's not going to make money in your content?
I would want someone to ask. I mean, it's kind of like someone walking into your house and being like, man, this place is super nice. Let me settle on in.
Well, interestingly,
I didn't invite you in.
The reason this is happening is because these companies are saying you have to ask, and OpenAI and Google and others are asking. This is from Originality AI, which is an Ontario-based AI detection startup via Wired magazine. Data collected in mid-January on about 40 top news sites shows that almost all of them use robots.txt or something like it to block AI web crawlers. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, the Atlantic, Bleacher Report. OpenAI's GPT bot is the most widely blocked crawler, but none of the top right-wing news sites surveyed, including Fox News, The Daily Caller, Breitbart, block any of the most prominent AI web scrapers. So they're actually explicitly saying, the sites that are blocking it are explicitly saying, no, you can't look. And to their credit, OpenAI and Google are honoring it. But you can see the problem from a societal point of view, even to that. So
yeah, well then what's to stop, I don't know, Microsoft or Google from saying, wow, we have a huge bias problem and it's partially because of our training data is so biased.
We've seen that happen.
What I wondered about...
We've seen that happen with face recognition. I mean, face recognition is notoriously terrible on people of color because it's and this is just an inadvertency. This isn't even intentional, but it was trained mostly on white faces. So, of course, it's terrible on people of color. So, but you want to fix that. Or do you just want to abandon face recognition and say, well, we should just never use it?
Something I was curious about after reading that article was, is it specific to AI, or is it just that you have a set of websites that are trying to get as much traffic as they can more aggressively, and so they're just a lot more lenient with their robots text file versus the other sites?
I don't know. That's
I didn't
a good
know.
question.
See, it wasn't clarified in the article either.
Right.
So I don't know what.
Well, you can't determine the intention. You can just merely look at their robots.txt and see what they're doing. Right.
This is also deeply related to, and I know is to the state of media, which we talked about before we got on the show. Which, if media were doing really excellent right now, there'd be less issue. Media is suffering. We have seen lots of layoffs in the media world among our friends, and this might be a killer for some who have really slow margins or thin margins, or it might be a savior if they can get a payout from someone like an OpenAI or other. But long term, cat is out of the bag. People are going to have this is why there's Mistral and others that raise money, because they're building the open source version of this. You could run the large language model from your phone or on your own device. And eventually people are just going to have their own stuff running, and the 1,000 people, 100,000 people are not going to all ask for permission each and every single place.
Well, but really the interesting thing is, so you're talking about Mistral. I use that, and I use OpenAI's, Facebook's Llama, both of which are open models. But those models, those are the ones that are being trained on this giant database of internet material. When I put this on my local machine, I'm doing the fine tuning with various content and stuff, right? So it still has to be, these are still from big companies training giant models, very expensively, by the way.
I'm not going to be shocked if you just and I'm already seeing it more and more startups and others doing their own training of their own models, and it'll become cheaper.
Oh, that's
and cheaper
interesting.
To go and
Isn't
do.
that interesting?
And it'll be easier and more effective to go and do.
Who does Mistral? Where does Mistral come from? That's a company, Mistral
France.
AI, right?
Yeah, they're based in France. Andreessen Horowitz backed them. They're not that old. They're like less than a year old or so, but it's like top researchers got together and sometimes, you throw a lot of money at something like that, it doesn't work. They do seem to be working. It's providing a different kind of value for those who want to have more control for their large language model.
There are a couple. Go ahead.
So on the subject of that training at the edge and training with your own data sets, and this was the last thing I was expecting when I was in talks to move over to Phison, they're working on an AI thing.
Interesting.
And it was shockingly not gimmicky. Like my immediate assumption initially, wait, SSD companies working on AI, what are you guys doing? And then no, actually it was a completely legitimate use case. And there's like, okay, well, you have a GPU, it only has so much memory. How do you train a model that's too big to fit in the memory? Oh, you can add some SSDs to the system.
A swap file
that are meant for that.
Yeah.
Oh, look, in essence, right? But you have to. You can't just plug that in and hit go. It doesn't work that way. You have to develop the actual technology and the software and everything to work together. So
it really is a gold rush, isn't it?
Yeah, we teased it at CES. We're working on a thing. And
it's a gold rush.
Like for a legit purpose, yeah.
So I've used two different programs, and I would like to tell people about them. One is called Ollama at ollama.ai, and it's based on Facebook Meta's open AI model Llama 2. But you can download other models, including the Mistral models. I've set that up, and I've also played with something called GPT-4All from Nomic. Again, the idea is you download these models that are trained sometimes by big companies, sometimes by Mistral, sometimes by a variety of people. These are the various models you can download. You can show the screen. And then you would then either fine-tune it or create your own AI. One of the most popular things to do is to create a PDF reader that could summarize content for you. And I've been doing that locally, and it's great. It's really, it's kind of amazing what you can do, but you do still need these big models. I think that'll be very interesting. Do you think, Ben, actually, there's going to be a lot of people who will be training their own models eventually?
Oh, yeah. I'm already seeing more and more startups, with a lot less resources training their own models for very specific things. Already seeing people who train models, like they may use the basis of an open source model and they train it a lot more.
Right.
But they're training it on things like, the medical industry, for example. You're not going to go and use out of the box Chat GPT, OpenAI.
Well,
GPT-4.
you might use the large language model like Llama to do the basic language stuff. So somebody's generated that, and then you're going to fine tune it for a medical application.
Well, and you have to compartmentalize that for HIPAA. You can't. The data can't go the other way.
Can't go out of your.
Right.
That's really interesting. Boy, I feel like AI is the thing that people should be focusing on right now, not AR. But as you say, that's a dumb distinction, Stacey. I'm making a silly, foolish.
Well, just saying AR versus AI is dumb.
It's not really the way it is. They go together. You're right. No, that's an excellent point. Yeah.
The next thing I want to see, which I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope somebody does it. If anybody's listening and is working on it, then more props to you. But like, we're getting pretty close to. If you've ever seen the movie Her, where they had the AI, you download the software on the phone, and I want to see the thing where you train your own model. You plug in some piece of software on your desktop. You train your own model on all of your own stuff. Right. And you go, hey, what was that email from?
Yeah, that's the fine tuning.
I want to just do hey, what's that email from 5 years ago about this thing, and just find it.
I think that's going to happen in the next few months. I think we're there already, practically.
You can already use Rewind to do some of that stuff.
Are you going to get a Rewind? Are you going to do the Rewind?
I'm buying every single hardware AI
Did you buy
device.
Humane?
I have not bought Humane. I will do that. That one is a hard value prop.
Yeah.
Like the Rabbit R1 is a much
Did you get a Rabbit
device. I got a Rabbit.
I really wanted
I bought
a
Rewind pendant.
Yeah.
I will see. I'll get a Humane pin and go and try the whole thing out. I'll try every single one.
So all of these devices are designed to have, they still, I think, all phone home though, right? Nobody's running locally, especially the R1, which really doesn't even have any apps. It just phones Perplexity.
You can't run any of those locally.
Yeah, but it's adding the fine tuning from your life. Not so much Rabbit, but definitely Rewind.ai and the Humane AI pin. It's recording your experience, your exchanges, your experiences and stuff, and then adding that as a fine tuning to an existing LLM. To me, you're right. That's Her. In fact, it was no accident, by the way, that ChatGPT, when they added an iOS app and an Android app, had one of the voices sounded surprisingly like Scarlett Johansson. Like a very... They didn't call it...
It could just be she has an amazing voice.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, thank you for watching this little snippet from our big show, the News Roundtable, This Week in Tech. I'm Leo Laporte. Each week we cover the week's tech news, in-depth analysis, but it's also fun and engaging. You'll find it at twit.tv along with all of our shows. And if you want more, just hit the subscribe button, and we'll be sure to bring you a lot more great content. Thanks for listening.